On the list of things you probably thought were over and done with, I'm guessing somewhere near the top, if you even remember, is the trial of the Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokar Tsarnaev, one of two brothers. The other one, of course, is now deceased, but one of two brothers who got together, put a bunch of things and explosives in pressure cookers at the Boston Marathon and blew up and killed several people, injuring many, many more. There was a firefight with police officers that ensued. A police officer was killed as well, and Dzhokar, in his escape, even ran over his own brother, potentially causing his death there. He was indicted on 30 different counts and convicted of all of them and sentenced to death. Now, we know, of course, the death penalty is a slow-moving process, but something happened in July that we're going to talk about, and we're also going to talk about what's going on now. I'm Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a legal and political commentator here on YouTube. If you like that type of stuff, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Don't miss any videos. Okay, so this guy's sentenced to death. Everybody's basically forgotten about him until July of 2020 when a federal appeals court goes, you know what? I don't know that the judge did enough to ensure that he had a fair jury. Well, when you blow up a bunch of people in a terroristic attack on one of the biggest marathons in the country, and it's a news story everywhere in the country, even extending to everywhere in the world, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to ensure you've got an unbiased jury entirely. I mean, you do your best, but maybe if you don't blow up a bunch of people, that would help with the unbiased jury part. But the appeals court says, nope, he didn't have an unbiased jury. Therefore, we're going to say no death penalty. He gets life in prison instead. Yeah, that happened last year under the Trump administration. Now, the Trump administration was an administration that was in favor of the federal death penalty. In fact, reinstituting the federal death penalty and executing 13 different people after it had been put on pause. But it's important to note that this is a bipartisan effort to have this man put to death by the courts because he was convicted under Obama, and the Obama Department of Justice sought the death penalty. Well, times are a-changin' apparently, and Joe Biden is not a fan of the federal death penalty, he says, and he is trying to stop it. So the question will be, what's going to happen in this case? What's going to happen here? Let's start talking about it from the article. Now, this article will be linked below. It's from the Associated Press. You're welcome to check it if you want. I don't care about most of what they have to say, but let's get the details that are relevant to us here. The Supreme Court said on Monday it will consider reinstating the death sentence for Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokar Tsarnaev, presenting President Joe Biden with an early test of his opposition to capital punishment. Look, federal capital punishment is actually a very, very small number of people. It is nothing along the lines of Texas or other states which have much larger capital punishment numbers. That's because typically you're not dealing with federal crimes that involve the death penalty unless you've got something where people are traveling across state lines to kill people, or they're doing engaged in like kidnapping across state lines and stuff like that. It's pretty rare. Most death penalty crimes happen within a state, but this was in federal court, and so Joe Biden, of course, can't do anything about state capital punishment. That would have to be a constitutional amendment or something like that. But he has expressed opposition to federal capital punishment. But he was vice president when the Department of Justice decided to pursue death penalty charges. And that's where some of the confusion is coming in around Biden. But let's not talk about Biden. We've got to focus on the court. The justices agreed to hear an appeal filed by the Trump administration, which carried out executions of 13 federal inmates in its final 6 months in office, including 3 in the last week of President Donald Trump's term. And guys, you can find people on Twitter or wherever who are whining about the 13 federal inmates who were executed. If you go read up on these people, they're terrible. They were terrible. I'm not the biggest fan of the death penalty in general. I worry that the state might overstep and execute an innocent person. That is certainly a possibility. And I don't have much faith in government to do things. But I mean, the people that were executed by Trump, the 13 federal inmates, is a large list of horrific crimes with overwhelming amounts of proof going into them. And that is the problem here. Does anybody think that Dzhokar Tsarnaev was not the person who bombed the Boston Marathon? I don't know. Maybe some of you do. Please let me know down in the comments. Am I wrong on this? But I think it's pretty clear that this was the guy. I don't know how you get a more clear case of criminal acts than this, but maybe we'll get some insight here. The case won't be heard until the fall, and it's unclear how the new administration will approach Tsarnaev's case. The initial prosecution decision to seek a death sentence was made by the Obama administration, in which Biden served as vice president. So, you know, Trump's lawyers, Trump's Department of Justice, I should say, not Trump's lawyers, Trump's Department of Justice appealed to the Supreme Court, petitioned them for review, and said, hey, we want to proceed with the death penalty on this. And so now Biden's Department of Justice has to actually carry out the appeal. Whether or not they'll do it, I mean, they could file a brief that says, no, we actually don't want the death penalty here, so we won't fight for it. And then the other thing that could happen is, even if they fight for it, Joe Biden has no obligation to implement that death penalty. He doesn't have to schedule an execution on this guy. So Biden has pledged to seek an end to the federal death penalty, but has said nothing about how he plans to do so. In just over 2 months in office, the new administration has reversed its predecessor's position in several high court cases. But the Justice Department has not notified the court of any change in its position in Tsarnaev's case. Even if the court were to reinstate the death sentence, nothing would force Biden to schedule an execution date. So, if Joe Biden is opposed to capital punishment on principle and is looking to be consistent, maybe he goes ahead and they fight for the death penalty, but he doesn't schedule an execution. And then, you know, it falls to his successor, whoever that may be. I don't know about that one, but to me, this is one of those cases, one of those very rare cases where the law seems to be perfectly in line with the state carrying out a death sentence against someone who is credibly accused and credibly convicted of a crime. How the appeals court could determine that Tsarnaev's sentencing may have been impacted by bias is beyond me. But let's go down here to down here a little bit. The Justice Department had moved quickly to appeal the decision to remove the death penalty, asking the justices to hear and decide the case by the end of the court's current term in early summer. Then Attorney General William Barr said last year, we will do whatever's necessary. Tsarnaev's lawyers acknowledged at the beginning of his trial that he and his older brother, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, set off the bombs at the marathon finish line on April 15th. But they argued that Dzhokar Tsarnaev is less culpable than his brother, who they said was the mastermind behind the attack. Well, conveniently, he's dead, so there wasn't much to countermand that strategy, but okay, fine. I don't care if he was not the mastermind. He still participated in the murder of tons of people. Tamerlan Tsarnaev died following a gunfight with police and being run over by his brother as he fled. Police captured a bloodied and wounded Dzhokar Tsarnaev hours later in the Boston suburb of Watertown, where he was hiding in a boat parked in a backyard. Tsarnaev, now 27, was convicted on all 30 charges against him, including conspiracy and use of a weapon of mass destruction and the killing of a Massachusetts Institute of Technology police officer during the Tsarnaev brothers' getaway attempt. The appeals court upheld all but a few of his convictions. So, I don't know, man. I don't know how you go and say, well, you know, maybe not this guy. There are tons and tons of cases where you can say the death penalty is being applied unfairly. There's plenty of argument to be had over the general application of the death penalty and its use at the state level and even at the federal level in some cases where people may have been convicted with some bias or there could be some exonerating evidence. That there are lots of lawyers doing that work. But this case, though, his lawyers admitted that they did it. He killed his own brother, in his fleeing, killed a police officer. What more do we need? What more do we need to figure out about this case to apply the death penalty? If there is a death penalty in this country, I can't think of a better one, but maybe I'm wrong. Tell me what you think. I bet I didn't even realize this was still going. I don't know if you did either. But there you go. There's the update. This will be a pretty interesting case to follow, and I'll be looking into it. Till next time, peace. Peace.